You are listening to Taking Stock. I'm Carol Masser, my co-host Michael McKee. We are live from the Ad Club in Boston, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
I'm gonna love her, I swear I will. All the way from Bunker to Beacon Hill. I will have a party, Boston tea. All the boys, yeah, in love, that's me.
All right.
It got quiet here
It
all
got
of
quiet.
a
That's
sudden.
because the boss is about to
I
speak.
know. She's scaring everybody. I do
Everybody's
that.
like, oh, you know,
It's okay. That's a good boss.
They're ready to clap and applaud. Kathy Kiely is the president of the Ad Club in Boston. Our host today here for Taking Stock, Carol and I, visiting in the Ad Club. We've talked a lot to a lot of different people about advertising and marketing so far this year, but I haven't gotten the question that I wanted to ask yet. And that is, how does it look going into 2015? Are people buying ads? Because a lot of people say the advertising industry is a leading indicator of what the overall economy is going to be.
Yes, and we talked last night. We hosted the Media Maven Awards, which celebrates the best marketing and media plans in New England. And I think everyone to a person felt like it's the very strong time right now for media and buying and purchasing. All things point to that.
All things point. And, it's been interesting talking to everybody because there's just so many different avenues now for advertising. How do folks find the right mix? I mean, you help them, you guide them.
We do. So I've been in this job 10 years. The Ad Club itself has been around for over 100 years.
Just last year, right?
Yes, we celebrated 100th anniversary, which is amazing. I always point out
I love the history of the club. It's
absolutely.
Great.
And I point out I have not been at the helm for 100 years, only 10. But in the 10 years that I have been here, I think we have watched the media landscape change so dramatically. And that's part of the function of the Ad Club, is to help people navigate all the changes, because if you're a CMO and you're focused on a brand, you don't have time to pay attention to every single thing that's happening and shifting and changing. So the Ad Club celebrates, educates, and informs people of everything that's happening in media and marketing in general.
So everything, what's happening? No, I'm just kidding.
How many hours do we have?
What is the biggest trend these days? We talked a little bit earlier about social and native and mobile. What would you say is the most important thing now?
I still say, and I go back to this constantly, part of, I think, why I say this is because my background was as a creative director. I think having a big idea out of the gate is the most important thing of all for brands, to find your brand personality and your voice. And then all the rest of it, mobile, all the technology is just a platform for your messaging. So as we see, obviously mobile is a huge trend right now, but you still have to have a really important message and be talking to people in a voice that they care about and understand.
Well, Kathy, when you say message, is it just, kind of the company's mission, or is it having just a great tagline that just sticks with you?
It's a great tagline that sticks with you. And last night, as we looked at all the media plans that were being celebrated, at the heart of all of those media plans was a really big, wonderful idea, like American Greetings, and that message of how important it is to be a mother and what that job is all about. So you have to have an idea, and then everything else is just getting that message and that idea out.
With social media, though, let me ask you, because it's very easy for somebody else to control your message, and it's very easy for other people to get in there. Is that a trickier terrain, if you will, for companies and folks that have a brand and they want to put it out there?
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked to an awful lot of people in the financial world today, and that's highly regulated for them. So in a less regulated world like a Dunkin' Donuts, I think early on in the social world, people were nervous about putting their brand out on social media. But I think what they found out was you have to kind of let go a little bit, relinquish control, and your brand fans will take over. I think Dunkin' Donuts saw that when they very first got into the social media, and anyone would criticize Dunkin' Donuts, their fans of the brand would jump on and say, wait a minute, that's my coffee, and defend it and do it themselves. So you have to be a little bit brave, a little bit savvy, and
a little relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely.
A question I had is, with all of these different types of advertising now, I mean, you knew how many newspapers were sold and you knew what TV ratings were, but how do you know your message is reaching people these days? How do we have accurate enough measurements, or are we still kind of guessing?
Well, no, I think we have I think we have incredible measurements, and I think that's confusing people a little bit. So everyone talks about big data, and I think the challenge now with big data is to get it down to a message of one, to be able to talk to one person intelligently and effectively, and be able to change your message one person at a time. And I think ultimately we will get to that. But no, I think it's getting easier and easier to understand how impactful your messaging is.
I think about how Mad Men, right, was so good with the 50s and the 60s in terms of advertising. What
Sure.
would be the series to talk about today?
For Mad Men, I think it would be mad scientists meet mad men. 'Cause
Really?
there's such a science to all of this now. But to my earlier point, you still have to have an emotion, you have to reach people's hearts, you have to have an interesting message. So it's sort of, math meets entertainment.
Who are people marketing to nowadays? Is it baby boomers? Is it millennials? I mean, I know in some cases it's got to be a bit of everybody, but millennials and baby boomers, very different groups here.
Well, and I think it's getting easier to market to a mindset versus just a demographic. So let's say you're trying to sell a Cadillac. I think it's getting easier to tap into the mindset through things like what music are they listening to, where are they hanging out, what are they doing socially, so that a Cadillac you could tap into, a 24-year-old as well as a 58-year-old and speak to them each differently, but they could still have a mindset for the brand.
Do you have to micro-target the different types of advertising these days? Is what the campaign you're going to come up with for mobile going to be different than what you're going to come up with for social or for TV?
I think it's a different execution of a one big idea, ideally. So I think if you have a platform that the brand stands for, you're just going to execute it differently across platforms.
Now, admit it, radio is the most fun, right? Because
Radio's the best.
Well, you can use your imagination in radio ads in ways that you can't anywhere else.
You can, and I have to say that when I was a young person, I grew up as a creative director in advertising, and in my early career, radio, that was the toughest thing to do well, because you had 60 seconds to entertain. And the radio writers back then, and I'm not giving you a year or a date or anything, but back then when you could write for radio, that's how you cut your teeth. That meant you were a very good radio writer. Then you were great.
And it's great because radio, everybody says, is going to go away, but it's still as important
It's not
to
going
everybody
away.
as ever.
It's not going away. Their technology will change, but I think radio is here to stay.
An exciting time for advertising.
It's a great time to be in advertising. And I think young people that enter the industry now, the biggest struggle for them is to figure out what part of advertising do they want to be in, because there's so many new jobs and so many new channels that you can get involved in, and it's really exciting.
Kathy Kiely, thank you so much for hosting us today.
And giving
I
us
loved
the
having
bigger
you.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And there you go. See, everybody
everyone
that
gets
listening
tomorrow
to you.
off.
And,
No
you
work
heard that,
tomorrow.
everyone.
Everybody gets tomorrow off.
Well,
Did you
Carol,
hear that, folks, at Bloomberg? Yeah, we get them
I
to
don't
do
think
that.
that's going to work for us.
it's not
Carol
gonna happen.
Vassar and I have to work tomorrow, so
Kathy,
you'll be
thank you.
hearing us on Bloomberg's Taking Stock. Thank you so much for...
At the Ad Club in Boston, learning about what's going on in terms of marketing and advertising. This is Taking Stock, and you're listening to Bloomberg Radio.
Taking Stock, weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, in New York on Bloomberg 1130, in Boston on 1200 AM and 94.5 FM HD2, in San Francisco on 960 AM and 103.7 FM HD2, and Sirius XM Satellite Radio Channel 119. Copyright 2014 Bloomberg LP.